Charlie's mother, and then Charlie's father. The third one has always been a puzzle to the entire family. But then I found it was for Charlie. And I have pictures of Charlie's memorial slab. The parents wanted to have their son with them. Why? I mean, apart from the fact that it was their child. She writes that in another email. Actually, it's worth quoting. Again, it's in a different page of my paperwork here. Oh, by the way, while you're all sitting here, what I did was I have, and I'll start with Tracey, and it can go back all the way to the back here and over here. These are the 6 soldiers and how they are actually written up in the cemetery register. When you walk into the cemeteries, each one of them has a little niche with a little lock on it to protect it from the rain. In Belgium, you can take the book out, and it will tell you in which plot each soldier is buried. And so I have pictures, and you'll see some of them over here too. I took pictures of each of the books where our Bahamian soldiers are in, and these are copies of, they're small print, but these are copies, so you can see not only the name of our Bahamians, but how old they were, the day they died, who their parents were, etc. So I was looking for this particular very sad part of a story that I got. Let's see. I have it here. Okay. I was actually writing this to somebody. I was actually writing this to the Mosley family a couple of days after I spoke to Pat. And so what I actually wrote was, Patricia was tearily telling me the other day what happened to her when her family, and I write, Sparkman would have been her uncle had he survived. She herself was not born yet in 1917, but that's when he died. When her family learned of Charlie's death, the family got a letter from the military authorities. It was intercepted by one of the 7 surviving children before it could get to Charlie's mother, who was very fragile at the time, after losing her husband only 3 months before Charlie's tragedy was broken to the children and the family. The children had a meeting among themselves. Charlie was the youngest of 8. And they had a meeting, she said. And she knows this from her father, who was Charlie's brother. And the family was debating whether they would show the letter to the mother, or whether it would be much better for her not to know, because she had just lost her husband. It was decided that the mother was entitled to know that her youngest child was killed in the war. Upon hearing the news, Charlie's mother silently went into her bedroom, never came out of that room in the next 5 weeks, and then one morning was found dead in her bed. On her nightstand was her Bible, and in it she had written, "Today I lost my baby," next to a Bible text that read, "Let your heart not be troubled." And I have to check, I think that's John 14:27. Incidentally, I don't have that with me here, when I've been in touch with the Mosley family in preparation of maybe what we'll do for the Second World War, I got a letter from George Mosley, who is a cousin to Lou Mosley, and obviously all related to Mary Mosley. And he wrote me an email a couple of weeks ago. He didn't know this. And he wrote me and he said, We didn't know whether we wanted to tell George's father, George, who actually was killed in Germany. He's one of the 7 Bahamians. I think only 7 Bahamians got killed, as opposed to the 54 in the First World War. 7 got killed in the Second World War. And so one of them was George Mosley, who was on a plane together with somebody Lightborn, I forget the first name. And so a letter came, and they had the same discussion. It was chilling for me to read George's email, because he didn't know about this other story, in which he said George's father died within a month after he learned that George had definitely been killed. This was in 1947. He kept on thinking that maybe he was missing in action, maybe he was in a concentration camp, maybe the Red Cross this, maybe the Red Cross that. And then when it was final, and they showed him the letter, exactly the same thing happened. You know, be it 40 years or 30 years apart. But that's what war does to you. You know, my grandparents having to go to France was nothing compared to Bahamians losing their children so far away, 10,000 miles from here. So, I'm going to go and see Pat Pishin, my new friend, sometime later on. I'll take the book. She's asked me whether the Dupuche family would be kind enough to make a photocopy of Sir Etienne's autobiography. I intend to go and see her, give her the book, and actually she's promised me that I can take materials from her that we could, I'll give it to Tracey. We'll see what happens to it, you know, and of course I'll share it with the Dupuche family as well. That's for Sparkman. So for the Curry picture that we have, we are working on digitalizing it and adding it somehow to the exhibition. The way we want also to get a picture from Charlie Sparkman and add that to his panel over here. And then so far there's a third one, is our Mr. Duncan. And Adina Monroe, who is with the, the British Legion, she said, I think I know somebody who knows who this Mr. Duncan is, because Dallas Bethel, our Commodore, he has like a sort of personal assistant, a very capable young guy. He is a Duncan, he could tell us more about it. So what I did was a couple of weeks ago, I had lunch with Mr. Duncan Jr., but he brought his father, Mr. Duncan Sr., and we listened for a couple of hours to what they had to say. And we don't know for sure what the relationship is, because it's a little bit vague. So I spoke this morning with Francine Russell, and we said, we need to know what's going on. They're from Andros. They're actually from Congo Town. And Francine and I decided this morning, sometime in the next 2 months, we'll go to Congo Town and interview the Duncan family so that we have that third person also wrapped up. I hope that it's easier for the Ingraham and the Saunders and the Albury to get to the bottom of it, but it's very exciting. Anybody that says that history is dead material and you can't do anything with it and we should forget about it, let me tell you one thing, it's absolutely not true. Talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you.